Now I'd like to tell you a little bit about some of the features of this unit. Many people mistakenly believe they can pick up a unit like this at some Sears, Kmart, or sporting goods store, or that it's similar to a typical rebounder. Nothing could be further from the truth. Number one, this mat material. This is not made out of the canvas, nylon, or plastic materials you can find on typical rebounders. Canvas, nylon, and plastic mats look the same, but the mat has a tendency to stretch. When the mat stretches with the spring, your feet sink. They pronate and turn in toward each other every time you land in the middle of the bounce. Well, that leads to ankle problems that can, knee problems, and lower back problems. This mat material here is a space-age material made here in the United States. It is a polypropylene put under nearly 200 tons of pressure. So every fiber is extremely dense. You're not going to stretch this out. You land anywhere on this mat, it lifts you straight up. Even at an angle, it will lift you straight up. You land on a mat that stretches some, it will have a tendency to throw you off. We do this so you have good support. In addition, we have the triple-tiered tapered spring design. We're the only ones that manufacture this. The reason we do it is so that the spring will adapt to the weight of the person using it. If you use a large, just tapered spring and you step on it, you use the entire spring. Depending on how much you weigh or how high you are jumping, you want that spring to give you the support you need, but you may not necessarily need all of the spring. So we have a larger diameter in the middle of the spring with a little ridge, which focuses the weight in the middle of the spring. As the spring stretches, if you jump higher or you weigh more, you will graduate to the next tier, and so on and so forth to the last two coils of the last tier. That's the only self-adjusting spring like it in the world. The springs do not connect directly into the frame. We never wear the frame out. We drill 36 holes through the frame, put steel pins through each hole, and connect the springs to the pin. So the frame will last virtually forever. The legs don't screw on. Anything that screws on can get stripped, stuck, or lost. So these fit over a steel post. They're held into place by heavy-duty piano wire. Best wire you're going to be able to find. Even the rubber tips aren't rubber. They're a polymer. They'll last for years. We've never worn one out. We designed the unit to last a lifetime. We don't do hand welding. We use a robotic welding system, so you have an even bead of weld. You don't have cold spots, so the legs don't break off like they can with typical welding programs. That's the trifold Cellerciser. In fact, they wanted to do an infomercial with me. I've had half a dozen infomercial opportunities. I've turned them all down because I wouldn't compromise the integrity of the product for the message. Other people have taken my message and they've done infomercials and they've compromised the integrity of the product. I can't do that. It's been a real privilege and honor working with people. Cellercise, I've got a lady who began in her 80s. By the time she was in her 90s, she was skiing again. At 101, she was celebrating her birthday tobogganing. In fact, yep, there she is. We've got this lady here. I'll tell you just briefly about her, Ruth Mary. Ruth Mary heard me on the radio talk about the fact cells don't get old. They're always replacing themselves. We strengthen and improve the efficiency of a cell at any age. She started to use my program. 3.5 months later, she calls up the Seattle Times. She just says, you've got to get this information out to the public. Seattle Times had no idea what she was talking about. They'd never heard of Cellercise. But they asked her, how old are you? Ruth Mary says, I'm 94. And they said, where do you live? So they put her on the front cover of Section E of the Seattle Times newspaper. She told her story, sitting lotus style. And she wrote me a letter. And in the letter that she wrote me, I've got a copy of it here, she said that this had really saved her life. And she tells me why she believes it saved her life. And then she goes on to say that since the printing of that article, the Seattle Times has had more requests for copies and duplications of the article than of any other article they've ever printed. We have a lady that was here last year whose mom started Cellercising. Her mom started Cellercising in June. It changed her entire life as well. She says, and there she is at 90, she'll be 95 next month. There's a lot of these that go on. Robert Gent was another individual. Robert, when he started, he had torn up his muscles and his shoulders and his knees doing typical weight-bearing exercise, weightlifting and football. I got him involved on the Cellerciser. I showed him, it took about 2 hours explaining everything to him and gave him a program. He went home, started to do it. 3.5 months later, he goes out for the Senior Games Pentathlon. He wins first place in all of North America. He's considered the best on the continent. In his 80s, he leg presses 60s, he leg presses 885 pounds. And he sends me the various different
testimonials as to what he, what it did for me. He says, David, it's been miraculous, a positive influence that your program has had on my body. I've spent thousands on supplements past 15 years. I've tried every strength, Pilates, stretching routine available. Nothing has worked like your tramp, he calls it a tramp, to help me get my muscle and joint health back. It was a great story. Migraine headaches since 1958, severe migraine headaches. Doctors couldn't help her. Heard me on the radio, called me up, can I use it? I said, can you walk? She says, well, not really. I'm in a bed. I'm connected to IVs, and the doctors are giving me the maximum amount of medications they can to help me with my migraines. I've had 64 days straight of migraines this last year. She did not want to live. I was her last resort, she said. So she gets the Cellerciser, starts to use it. First month goes by, I didn't hear anything. Second month, I didn't hear anything. Third month, I didn't hear anything. In the fourth month, I get a 2-page handwritten letter from her telling me that for the first time since 1958, she is totally migraine-free. She's off all pain medication. For the first time in 4 years, she's able to paint again. And listen to the last part, because this sums it up. Since having such great results physically, I'm feeling so much better mentally. First, I give thanks to the Lord and thank Him for you, Dave, your work and your development of the Cellerciser. How much pleasure and satisfaction you must receive from your work. Thank you. The Cellerciser has given me a whole new lease on life. Isn't that great? I want you to hear an incredible story. This lady's an inspiration to me. I have people that are inspirations to me. She is at the very, very top of my inspiration list. And when I saw Maggie last year, and I'll let her tell her story, I had a chance to take her through a little program on the Cellerciser. And when we were done, I asked her, tell us how you feel. And this blank look came over her face as she's doing these different movements, and I didn't know what she was going to say. Listen to her story.
Is this working?
Yeah.
Okay. I had a bad car accident I'm sorry already, I'm crying, about 7 years ago. And I'd been to about 6 or 7 different doctors, neurologists, and all kinds of pain management specialists, and orthopedic surgeons and all. The neurologist gave me a test and did different things to me and wanted me to take Prozac and all kinds of things because they said it would help my brain function or something with the pain management. And I have one of my best friends is here today, and she's a naturopath, and she could attest to everything that when I had to quit my job. I was a vegetable, and I had a doctor that I was really offended by. He was my main doctor, and 2 years ago, it was a year before I met David, he told me, he said, there's no more hope. I can't see you anymore. And this is after taking care of me for about 5 years. And he said in about 2 years, you're going to be like this. And he went like this. Because I'm going to be all crippled up, he said, with all kinds of arthritis and everything. I'm sorry. And last year, when I came here, David did something really strange to me. He had me lay down here, and he did the baby bounce on me. And he asked me if I felt any pain, and this strange look was because I'd never known in 6 years a good night's sleep or what it was like to live without pain. The pain extended from my neck all the way down my back. My toes were getting numb because it went through my legs. And I was getting pain from my neck coming down here. And I had 3 fingers on each hand that were numb. And I'd wake up in the morning and I'd try to shove my nails into my fingers and I couldn't feel them, honestly. And I stood there, and all of a sudden, I don't know what I felt. I can't even remember because it was so emotional. But I don't know if it was release. I don't know what he did to me. It was like a miracle because I stood there and I said, I don't think I feel any pain. And I didn't. And people started asking me afterwards. They'd see me every day and at night and the next day, and do you have pain yet? And I said, no, I still don't have any pain. I had people calling me. I have people keeping in touch with me by email. Until this day, I don't have pain, and I couldn't walk up those steps last year or walk down the steps. They had to take me off the stage, and I'm wearing high heels for 3 days now. 3 days in a row, I've worn high heels.
All right, Maggie.
I don't feel the pain at all. Honest to God, I don't feel that pain. I still have some neck challenges, but I do not feel that pain anymore. It went away. I don't know what happened.
We broke up the blockages. We opened up the circulation. The cell's better than any doctor.
I have cervical epidurals, if anybody knows what that is, with the steroid injections and everything. You go in the hospital and they give you the cervical epidurals and you have to heal up there for, the day, and then they let you go home at night. And the Vicodins, I can't even tell you the stories. I can't even think of all of them. Everything I went through. And the Cellerciser did it.
Thank you, Maggie. You're beautiful.
Thank you. Thank you, sweetheart. Thank you. Oh, you're great. Thank you.